Narcan or naloxone, it reverses the effects of opioid overdose. So this is Narcan. This is 4 milligrams of Narcan or naloxone. You can see on the screen, this is what it looks like. This is what it actually looks like in person. So Narcan or naloxone, what is it and what does it do? What does it do? It reverses the effects of opioid overdoses. So it doesn't allow the opiate to bind to the receptors in the brain. So it actually blocks it. So how do you know if a person is having a opioid overdose? And when I say opioid, I mean like heroin, fentanyl, or any other of the prescription opioids. So a person will stop breathing, their breathing will be slowed, their lips will become gray, they will their pupils will become pinpointed. Like you could tell, they'll slump over. Their chest will cease to rise. They will be unresponsive. So this is how you can tell that they are not. They're possibly having an opioid overdose. So first, let me say, my name is Drew, and I'm a New York State certified addiction recovery coach and recovery peer advocate, and welcome to the Reset. So I have been trained in how to teach people how to use naloxone or Narcan. Narcan is the name of the medication. Naloxone is the name of the is the generic name. So and you can save a life by learning this. So first of all, when you see somebody start to nod out, they can be possibly just having a quote unquote good high, or they could be suffering an overdose. So first you want to yell out their name, like whoever their name is, like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you suffering an overdose?" Like you want to yell out very loud in a stern voice. You want to see if they're okay. You want to shout their name out. If they don't respond, then you want to perhaps do a sternum rub. Rub their sternum to see if they respond. So if they don't respond to you shouting, if they don't respond to you calling their name out, then you want to perhaps check to see if they will, if they're breathing. Check their breathing, just look to see if their chest is rising, to see if they are possibly having a opioid overdose. So at this point, we want to see about using the Narcan or naloxone. So if you're with somebody else, you want to tell them, call 911, let 911 know you have a person who's unresponsive. Give them the location of where they're at. Say you have a person, we're not medical professionals. You just want to say a person is having a possible overdose, and this is the location, and they're unresponsive, and that you're going to give them Narcan. So first, what we do is we take the packet, we peel the packet back, and this is what it looks like. So what you want to do, you want to hold the Narcan. You want to put your 2 fingers here. What you want to do is you want to put your thumb on the plunger, and you want to gently insert it into their nostril. And you want to squeeze all the way, 1 full dose. It does not matter which nostril that you use. 1 full dose into their nostril. Okay? You want to lean them on their side. This is called the recovery position. Put them on their side, because if they wake up, they may actually throw up. They may actually vomit. So you want to make sure that they don't choke on their own vomit. You want to make sure that if they're on the recovery side, if they're on their side, that if they throw up on their side. So you put them on the side. So if they do recover, you want to let them know that, look, you've just had an overdose. I've just given you Narcan. Relax. Medical professionals are on their way. What are people's responses when they wake up from an overdose? Sometimes they'll be totally out of it. Sometimes they'll be angry because you've just ruined their high. They're like, "Oh, like you ruined their high." And they're like they can be really upset. So you want to be prepared for this. You want to tell them, look, you've just suffered overdose. Wait, relax, be calm. So at this point, a person may be like, "Hey, look, I'm going to get out of here." But you need to let them know some vital information. This information is, you've been given Narcan. You cannot get high because I've given you Narcan. The receptors, it won't allow you to get high. You won't be able to get high for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Because here's what happens. A person get Narcan and they leave the scene, and then they go and they do drugs again, and they're not getting high, and they do drugs again, take more opiates, heroin, fentanyl, or whatever, and then when the naloxone wears off, they have a fatal overdose. So in New York City, there's a fatal overdose every 5 hours or so. So people will die. So, just because they're revived, that doesn't mean they won't have an overdose. That's why we always recommend that they go with medical professionals, go to the hospital, and that allows them to get medical attention. So if they are responsive, we say go with somebody. Even if they don't go with medical professionals, we say don't go home alone. Go with somebody. Have somebody go with you, because they can suffer a fatal overdose after that. So what happens if they don't respond? So in a packet, you can get, there's always 2 doses. So if the first dose doesn't work after a minute or 2, they do not respond, you want to hit them with a second dose. You want to use a second nostril. You want to put it in the nostril gently. You want to squeeze all the way, and you want to hit them with a second dose of Narcan. And hopefully they will respond at that point. Like I said, you watch them closely. You move them to the emergency, the recovery position, and wait for medical personnel. It's very important that people understand that just because they've been revived, that doesn't mean that they're going to be okay. We want to make sure that they don't go home alone, they don't leave the scene. So in New York State, there's a Good Samaritan law. So like if somebody's with them and the authorities arrive, like they won't arrest the person or with them if they have drugs on them, because as a Good Samaritan, if the person's helping them and they use drugs, they won't arrest them for that. I mean, if they have other legal warrants or other legal issues, that's a separate story. But because of the New York State Good Samaritan law, if you're with somebody and they overdose and you have drugs or whatever on you, then you're able to get off of that. You get able to not be arrested for that. So look, you can save a life. So what I suggest to people is that if you are a drug user, opiate drug user, that you keep Narcan with you. If you have someone in your family or your circle or your friends, you keep Narcan with you. You can get Narcan for free. In New York State, like you can order Narcan. So you can. It's called Naloxone. That's the name of it. Narcan's the commercial name of the drug. Like in New York State, you can get it for free in New York. So you can order it. You can go online. You can order it. They'll mail it to you for free. Naloxone, you can save a life. It's very important that, if you know somebody, if someone's in your circle, your neighborhood, at your job or whatever, keep it in your bag, keep it in your backpack. You never know. If you travel the subways or public transportation, you never know. People, fentanyl use, opiate use, oxycodone, oxycontin, these opiate painkillers, they're on the rise today. You never know that you may be able to save somebody's life. But you can get it in person in New York. You can contact the website. You can ask for it by mail, and you can get it sent to you. It's one of those things where, if you see somebody having an overdose, it's better to be safe than sorry. So once again, if you see somebody, the respiratory system, they're starting to fall out. If you see somebody, their breathing gets shallow, they start to nod and start to fall out, and you call their name, hey, are you okay? Hey, and they continue to fall out, and if they don't respond to the name, and then you give them the sternum rub, chest rub, and don't respond, then that's when you want to check, then that's when you want to do. So here's the thing about naloxone. If they aren't having an opioid overdose, it's still safe for them. So even if they're not having an opioid overdose, you can still give them naloxone. It will not have a negative effect on them. So you can still give it to them. Okay, and if you have naloxone, if you have Narcan, and if it's an old version or whatever, it's better to give them something that's older, than not to give them any Narcan. Like I said, you can save a life, and it's much better to be safe than sorry. So even if they're not having it, because there are other things that may resemble an opioid overdose. So if you think they may be having an opioid overdose, it's better to go ahead and be safe than sorry. So once again, my name is Drew. I'm a New York State certified addiction recovery coach, recovery peer advocate, and veteran supported recovery professional. And I've been trained on how to teach people on how to give Narcan and how to administer Narcan to people who are having overdose. So if you suspect an opioid overdose, this is what you do to prevent that, to overcome an opioid overdose. You know, I hope you don't have to use it, but if you do, you will be ready. God bless you and have a blessed day.